Welcome back. It's Priya and Anil. Today we are bringing you breaking news on the bank pension updation and a rumored date for the next hearing at the Supreme Court, but more of that later.
Yeah, the bank pension updation case. It's complex.
Exactly. And if you've been following this, you know it's not just about what the court decides eventually. It's, well, about when they'll even hear it. Often the frustrating part.
That's absolutely right. That whole procedural side of things can be a real headache to track. So that's what we're digging into right now.
Okay. So the main event, the big case, is in the Supreme Court. What's the official name again?
It's M.C Singla Bank Pension Updation v Union of India. But the key identifier for tracking is the case number.
Right, the number.
SLPC 5561216.
Okay. SLPC 5561216. Let's break that down real quick for everyone listening.
SLP, Special Leave Petition. It's basically how most cases get to the Supreme Court. You're asking for a special permission to appeal, usually after a High Court ruling. SLP is a residual power in the hands of the Supreme Court, exercised only in cases when any substantial question of law is involved, or there's a risk of gross injustice.
Okay. And the 2016 part tells you what?
That the case has been in the SC system for a long time, almost a decade now. It just shows you the timescale we're dealing with on this pension issue.
Wow, okay. And its current status, the classification is important for what happens next, right? Our sources say it's a miscellaneous matter. Section 4B.
Yes, that classification is critical, and it connects directly to the date everyone's whispering about.
Which is?
The unofficial kind of forecasted date, October 29th, 2025.
October 29th. Okay, put a pin in that.
But here's the interesting bit. The clue, really. October 29th is a Wednesday.
A Wednesday? Why? Why does the day of the week matter so much? I wouldn't have thought that's a big deal.
Well, normally, maybe not. But in the Supreme Court right now, it tells you a lot. It actually lends some weight to this rumored date, even though it's not official yet.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So this takes us behind the scenes into the court's own scheduling rules, the Supreme Court's scheduling mystery, let's call it. Explain why Wednesday is the key here.
Right. It all comes down to a relatively new internal rule, a circular that changed how they allocate business.
A circular. Okay.
Yeah, the current system basically splits the week.
All right.
Regular matters, the big final arguments where they settle major points of law. Those are now pretty much only heard on Mondays and Fridays.
Only Monday and Friday for the main events, the final hearings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this case, the M.C Singla case, is classified as miscellaneous.
Which means?
Which means it falls into the other bucket. Miscellaneous matters. Things like preliminary hearings, procedural stuff, interim applications. Admitting SLPs, they're now strictly handled on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. So the court's own calendar logic dictates that if this case, being miscellaneous, gets listed soon, it has to be on a Wednesday or a Thursday.
Precisely. And if the date Wednesday to 29th October is subsequently confirmed for the next hearing, as I suspect it will, it means that as far as the case is concerned, we're not even at the batting crease yet, just leaving the pavilion for the wicket.
Yeah. I like the metaphor. In other words, the next scheduled hearing is about arguments, not adjudication or a judgment. As otherwise the case would have been scheduled for either a Monday or a Friday.
Bingo! So the fact that the rumor mill landed on October 29th, a Wednesday, fits perfectly with the court's own stated procedure. It's not just a random date.
That's actually a really helpful insight. It gives the rumor some procedural backbone.
It does. And it also helps manage expectations,
Really? How?
If it is heard on the 29th, because it's listed as miscellaneous, you're probably looking at a procedural step, maybe setting a schedule, ruling on an application.
Not necessarily the final verdict on the whole pension updation issue itself?
Probably not. A final judgment usually comes after it's listed as a regular matter on a Monday or Friday.
Yes, that's circular again.
So knowing the difference is key for anyone following this closely.
Definitely adds context. Now, this scheduling rule, where did it come from again? You said it was relatively new?
Yeah. It came from a circular issued not too long after Justice Sanjeev Khanna became Chief Justice of India. That was back in November 2024.
Okay, so it's been in place for about a year. I mean, is it set in stone? Could they still bump the case around? How solid is this Wednesday, Thursday thing?
Well, court schedules can always shift, that's true. But the whole point of this new system reserving specific days for miscellaneous matters was actually to try and manage the huge backlog of exactly these kinds of cases.
Right, to stop them clogging up the days meant for final hearings.
Exactly. To give them dedicated time. So the institutional push is towards keeping the schedule. It makes the Wednesday listing more probable, I'd say.
Okay, and just to be clear, our sources mention while Justice Khanna brought in the rule.
Right. Justice B.R. Gawai is the current Chief Justice.
Good clarification. It shows the procedure has, well, outlasted the person who initiated it. Seems like it's embedded now.
It suggests it's become standard operating procedure.
Yeah,
And understanding that procedure is, frankly, just as vital as understanding the legal argument sometimes. It dictates the pace.
definitely. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Why is this case M.C Singla such a big deal? Let's talk about the stakes here, the judicial momentum. This isn't just some minor procedural fight.
Oh, absolutely not. At its heart, this is about pension formulas for potentially hundreds of thousands of bank retirees. It's about ensuring their pensions are, updated fairly, reflecting year-on-year realities like inflation.
So, massive financial implications, equity issues.
Immense stakes, which explains why there's so much litigation, not just in the Supreme Court, but across different high courts too. It's a nationwide union issue.
And things seem to have moved pretty quickly in the Supreme Court recently, leading up to this potential October 29th date.
Yes, there's been a flurry of activity. The main arguments in the bank pension updation case itself actually finished not long ago, on October 12th.
October 12th, that sounds like it should lead straight to a judgment, doesn't it? Arguments are over.
You'd think so, but what happened right after is telling. The judges didn't just reserve judgment, they specifically asked for something.
Which was,
Copies of the relevant High Court judgments on similar pension matters.
huh, that's interesting. Why would the Supreme Court need to go back and read all the High Court decisions at this stage? Aren't they just focused on the specific legal points raised in this special leave petitions or SLP?
Well, it suggests they're thinking bigger picture. They might be seeing conflicting decisions coming out of different high courts on these pension issues.
Trying to sort out inconsistencies?
Exactly. They likely want to synthesize everything, understand the whole landscape across the country. They're probably aiming for a judgment that sets a clear, unified national precedent, not just deciding the M.C Singla case facts in isolation.
Okay, that makes sense. They need the full picture to create a definitive ruling.
Right. Looking for those conflicting judgments to resolve them.
And then, just as things seem wrapped up, something else happened, pretty recently too.
Yes, very recently. Just 5 days after arguments concluded, on October 17th, a completely new appeal popped up in the Supreme Court.
Another one. What's this one about?
This one specifically challenges something called a validation clause.
A validation clause? Okay, what is that in plain English?
Think of it as a legal mechanism, often brought in by government or institutions, to sort of retroactively approve certain actions, or, more importantly here, to limit the impact of a court ruling.
Limit the impact how? Like restricting back pay or something?
Precisely. So imagine the employees win the main case. The court says, pensions must be updated. A validation clause might then be used to say, okay, fine, you get the updation, but only going forward from today. If that were to be the case, it could potentially wipe out years of retrospective benefits for bank retirees.
Wow. Okay, so that's a huge deal. winning the war, but losing half the territory potentially.
That's the concern, yes. So the fact that the petitioners immediately filed this challenge to the validation clause shows they're fighting on all fronts, not just for the principle of updation, but for the full financial reality of it.
It's a crucial defensive move then. Shows real urgency.
Absolutely. So you have arguments concluding, the court asking for documentation, this new validation clause challenge filed. It all points to significant momentum building towards the end of October.
Which makes that potential date, October 29th, that midweek slot, seem even more significant, even if it's still unofficial.
Definitely one to watch. The next crucial step is seeing if it actually gets listed on the official Supreme Court cause list for that Wednesday. That's the confirmation everyone's waiting for.
Right. Keep refreshing those court websites. Okay, so the Supreme Court is obviously the main stage here, setting the big precedent, but you mentioned litigation across jurisdictions. There's action elsewhere too.
Yes, we need to widen the lens a bit. There's a parallel track running particularly in the high courts. Let's quickly touch on the Delhi High Court.
Okay, the Delhi High Court update. How does that connect?
Well, it's vital because while the Supreme Court decides the fundamental, if updation is legally required, the high courts often deal with the how, the implementation, the rollout, the specific issues within their region.
So the Delhi High Court case is about the pension revision, but specifically for that jurisdiction.
That's right. It's a related case focusing on implementation there. And unlike the Supreme Court's tentative date, we have a firm date for Delhi.
Okay. A solid date we can mark down.
Yes. The next hearing in the Delhi High Court for their pension revision matter is officially scheduled for November 19th, 2025.
November 19th, and they've even given a specific time.
They have. It's set for 2:30 p.m.
2:30 in the afternoon. That level of detail, that feels very concrete compared to the SC Singla situation.
It does. It signals a definite milestone in that specific litigation track, and it highlights that even if there are delays or procedural steps at the Supreme Court level, the issue is still actively moving forward in key regional courts.
Gives you a sense of, procedural clarity that seems harder to come by with the SC sometimes. November 19th, 2:30 p.m. Something definite for people following the Delhi aspect.
And you have to remember, what happens in the Delhi High Court, while technically subject to the final SC ruling, can influence how any eventual SC precedent gets applied on the ground locally. These cases matter.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's pull this all together. We've covered quite a bit of ground from Supreme Court scheduling quirks to High Court specifics. What are the key takeaways for you, the listener, trying to make sense of this?
Okay, based on everything we've discussed from the sources, there are really two critical dates, two judicial moments you should be tracking very closely.
First up, the big one, that potential Supreme Court listing on October 29th, 2025. And crucially, remember why that date is plausible. It's a Wednesday.
Right, which signals, because of the court's own rules, that it's being treated as a miscellaneous matter. So expect a procedural update, maybe a scheduling order, not necessarily the final word just yet.
But a very significant indicator of movement. Okay, date number 2.
Date number 2 is the firm one, the Delhi High Court hearing on November 19th, 2025, specifically at 2:30 p.m.
That's your concrete appointment for tracking the regional implementation side, at least in the Delhi jurisdiction.
Exactly, a definite marker on the parallel track.
So knowing these dates, and maybe more importantly, understanding the logic behind that Wednesday prediction for the Supreme Court, it gives you a much deeper insight, doesn't it? It's not just guessing, it's based on how the court actually operates.
It really is. And that brings up a final thought. Maybe something for you and our listeners to mull over after listening.
Okay, leave us with something to think about.
Given how complex these big society-wide cases like pension updation are, how much does the court's own internal plumbing, like these procedural rules, such as dedicating specific days to specific types of cases, how much does that really shape the outcome? Or at least the timing and visibility of justice?
That's a great question. It suggests that understanding the procedure, the rules of the game inside the court, can be just as critical as understanding the legal arguments themselves. Sometimes, maybe even more predictive.
It's often the unseen machinery that dictates the pace.
That is the deep dive. Thank you for watching.
We'll definitely be keeping a close eye on both October 29th and November 19th. Please share, like, subscribe, and happy Diwali!